So I say to myself, one of the things I learned about was minimization. I dehumanized her, which I shouldn't have. I don't want to minimize it. The situation didn't last that long, but I do know it still can have a lasting impact. Their psyches are really young at that age. I'm never going to forgive myself for doing that to any child. It's something that I hope that, I don't know if she's in counseling or not. I'm hoping that she's able to talk through it and realize that wasn't anything that was her fault. I deeply regret that. Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to have to address that at some point in the future, especially with the mother and being my son is her sister.
Okay.
We are about to watch the parole hearing of a monster who is somehow up for parole after just serving 50% of his 3-year, 6-month sentence. This is a case where everybody has failed the victim and failed the public in the state of Connecticut. It is disturbing. I'll unpack it with those details at the end.
Tyson James, 443416.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Tyson James 443416. He is serving a sentence of 8 years, execution suspended after 3 years, 6 months, with 3 years probation to follow for risk of injury to a child. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of October 27, 2024 at 50%. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the following program: short-term sex treatment program, and he also works in the kitchen, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. Offender overall score for the SRT falls within the low range risk for recidivism, and utilizing the static 99R, the offender overall score for sexual offense recidivism fall within the low to moderate range. Mr. James, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. May you begin?
Hello, thank you for meeting with me today. I just wanted a couple minutes to go over my background, talk about some programs that I've done that's given me insight onto my offense and how my actions.
Mr. James, it's 2:00, and we have read all of the documents that were available to us. So we ask you to focus on the question, which is, why do you believe you deserve parole?
Okay. First off, this whole experience has been pretty much a nightmare. I've had a lot of time to think about my actions. I've taken numerous programs. They didn't mention all of them. I've done a mental health program. I'm in the culinary program. And I've, in the short-term sexual program that I did, I learned a lot about internal stressors, things that make you vulnerable, factors that contributed to my offense. I don't make any excuses for what I did. I take accountability for everything I've done. I made the decisions, but I was going through a rough period of time that I feel contributed to my offense making. I have extreme remorse for the victim. I have kids myself. I was always been a good father. I had custody of my daughter for 8 years. I wouldn't treat any child differently than I treat mine, and I made a horrible mistake. I wouldn't call it a mistake. It was a decision that I made, but it was something that I am really shameful for, and discussed it with myself. And I've done a lot of soul searching, and I have a lot of remorse for what I did. My actions not only affected the victim, but it really affected my children as well, and a lot of other people around me. So, I learned a few things in my programs that I could share with you guys in terms of warning signs to look out for, avoidance techniques, and stuff like that. I really planned on. I had a speech I wrote down to go around my background and the toxic situation that I was in shortly before my offense, I was smoking large amounts of marijuana. I wasn't getting any sleep. Again, I'm not saying that's an excuse, because it's not. I made my bed, so I'm going to lie in it. There's just a lot going on at that point, and I did something that was out of my character that I'm very confident I would never do again. You know, especially after I see the impact and everyone around me. You know, I hope the victim is doing well. You know, I heard at my sentencing that she was doing well in therapy. There wasn't really any concerns. I understand from what I engaged in can have an impact on her. I pray that it doesn't. You know, I hope that everything is working out for her and in that area. And I have goals and plans to go forward and try to get my life back on track. And that's pretty much where I have everything right now. So I mean, if you guys have any questions about the programs that I've done and the things that I've learned, I could tell you some things because it has given me a lot of insight on why I may have done the things that I did and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it. You know, I think I deserve what happened. You know, it's my first time in jail. I've never experienced anything like this. You know, I was praying for probation or something like that. But you know, the justice system did its job, and we are where we are. So the only thing I can do is just try to do better going forward for my 2 children that need me.
Okay, Mr. James. We've read the documents and prepared some questions. So why don't we move into that and we can learn more about insights that you've gained from the programs you've completed and your release plan. So we're going to start with my colleague, Mr. Rodriguez.
Exactly where I wanted to go, Madam Chair. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Mr. James. So now what I'm hearing you say is that you're accepting responsibility. It's not just you were just lying there and this young child came up to you, saw your situation and just started sexually fondling you.
No, I accept responsibility. You know, and encourage the situation disgustingly. You know, I'm not putting it all in her. You know, I engaged in that. I, you know, knew what I was doing, and even though it wasn't that long, it obviously is something that can make a lifelong impact. And I have no excuses for what I did. Shame on me.
Different than what we read in some of your files.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I believe in the beginning when I was first asked about it, especially with my attorney, and when I started the program, I was very stressed. I'm not exactly sure what I said, but it started off that way. But I have my report from my the synopsis from my sex program.
Yeah, we have that.
And I believe it said in there that I acknowledged that I, played a part in that. I don't think it said anything other.
That was one spot. I read it other places that you minimized it basically. But okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
Sharing that. You have a protective order.
I do. Yep.
That goes to 2099.
Yes.
So you talked about your program, so I'm going to give you a chance to share a little bit about your program.
Mm-hmm.
Gianna, you want to share some information that you got from there? Because we're looking to see if you're suitable to come out today, and the community is going to be safe, and that young children are going to be safe, right? So share with us what it is that you've learned. Well, you can start with the sex offender treatment program if you want.
Yep.
It's not the only program you've taken, correct?
No, so I took the intro to mental health program. One thing I want the board to be aware of is my first 6 months of my incarceration, I was misclassified. I was at Carl Robinson and I got into the fatherhood engagement services. I was in a Quinnipiac college program. I finished the CLICK program where you read with your children throughout a prison incarceration. I was in the Pathway Home. I was in numerous programs, and when I was misclassified, wasn't my fault. The DOC made a mistake. Apparently I was supposed to be a level 4. They then switched me to Cheshire, and I wasn't able to finish any of those programs. I was very confident I would have finished all those. I had to start from scratch at Cheshire, then came here a month later. And thank God I was actually able to get into 4 programs. I'm almost done with culinary. It's about a year program. I have another about a month and a half left of that. I just finished the intro to mental health program, which I've learned a great deal of interesting knowledge that I'd like to share in a minute. I just got into the mental health and culture program, which I was actually supposed to be signing the book pickup today at 1:00, but I missed that. So I'm going to have to go later. And I wrote a million other programs. You know, I was in a toxic relationship with the mother of my son. Before this, her daughter is the victim. I recognized a lot of the toxicity that I was in that I didn't see in hindsight. I wrote to get into the alternative to violence, domestic violence. I wrote all those programs to try to better myself, but they don't let you go into that unless you have a charge. So that's something that I planned on doing.
So I want to go back to your toxic relationship. I mean,
Yep.
it was because I think you talked about your stressors.
Yep.
But this happened. I'm assuming that was one of your stressors. So was this a retaliation against the?
No, of course, no, it was not. So I was a single father to my daughter for 8 years. I got custody of her over the mother. The mother had some drug substance abuse problems. I had no issues for 8 years. And around 2015 is when I met the mother of my son, the victim's mother. We were together for a couple of years. She got pregnant pretty quick. I was being irresponsible. I never changed the fact I love my son, and I've been a good father to him as well. But it was a fast pregnancy. I didn't really know my partner that well. I later found out she was diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder, which didn't help, but it wasn't all her fault. I had faults of my own. I was jealous. You know, we had some control issues, which I've learned about, and we were fighting a lot. You know, not physical fights, at least on my part. I was never physical. She was. I had a lot of bickering, breaking up, going back to each other. You know, love does a powerful thing. I'm sure you guys have all been there. It changes the way you think. I had love for my son. I had love for the mother, and I should have separated myself in hindsight. I don't believe any of this would have happened. The lawyer at the time that I had, because I had a DCF case going on or something ridiculous, and she told me if I don't leave this woman, I'm going to lose my kids, and I should have listened. Again, it's my fault, the reason why I'm here.
I'm sorry, DCF was involved in that relationship?
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was for, to be honest. I think it's because we were, I don't even remember. It was something that they closed the case on. But, and we were.
There was an allegation? Was there an allegation?
No, there was no allegations. What was it? It was,
All right, you won. So they were involved.
So, you know, I left her a few times, and she was living in my house with my son. I kept going back to her. I was actually to the point where I was, you know, I've been working HVAC for 16 years, the same company, and I get up early, and I was losing sleep. I was literally getting 2 hours sleep a night. I was actually even sleeping at my work to try to avoid conflict with her. Yeah, I was smoking. I had very poor coping mechanisms, which is what I learned about in one of my program. I was smoking lots of marijuana. I would deal with makeup. The way we would make up is would have sex, which is, I know, not a normal coping mechanism. It was just very toxic, and I was I was at the house one day when I had my children, then when the grandparents would have my children, I was avoiding her. It was just a very toxic situation. I should have separated myself, got my rights with my son, and moved on, but I didn't. In hindsight, I would have. Between that situation, having no sleep at all for almost about a period of a year, smoking numerous amounts of marijuana, which was a lot every day for years, I believe didn't help at all. It just kind of clouded my mind, and it was the only thing that I had to really turn to for comfort. My daughter has a medical disability. She's tube fed through her stomach.
Okay.
She has a right to her privacy, sir.
Yeah.
Please don't go into those details.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just had medical disabilities I was dealing with alone as a single parent. The mother of my son wouldn't help me. Not that it's her job, and I just had a lot on my plate for those last few years, and I wasn't healthy mentally. I thought I was a good father to my children when I had them, but on behind the scenes, when relationship wise, it just wasn't healthy at all. And those were I had internal, external stressors, which I learned about my program. One of the things we learned, it's called a SUD, the acronym SUD. It's a suddenly unimportant decision, which I made was that I allowed, the daughter would come wake up in the middle of the night from her bed, and she'd come into the mother's bed. I was fighting with the mother a lot, so I'd be on the couch. She'd come into the couch a lot. Half the time we're sleeping, and we learned that's a suddenly unimportant decision that can lead somewhere that you don't want it to go, and that's what happened. I'm very confident. I know this will never happen again. I've learned my lesson.
You didn't stop it from happening either.
I didn't. I didn't. And I'm disgusted myself. I never thought I was capable of something like that. You know, I don't want to sit here and blame my mental state and everything else, because that's an excuse. It's not, you know, I made my own decisions. They may be contributing factors. You know, but I learned that in my program, there's another acronym called PIG. It's problematic immediate gratification. So, you know, to your answer, this was no payback. I'm not a bad person. I can't even kill a spider. I love my children. You know, my daughter, I would do anything to keep her feeling good. You know, she has a disability. She would come home from school and kids would make fun of her, and it would really, really hurt me to see her being made fun of. So I don't want to hurt the psyche of any children, even if they're not my own, you know. And the problematic immediate gratification, I believe, is something that I fell into. It just crossed my mind, and I should have thought about it, you know, and I didn't. And when the moment was there, I know a lot of people wouldn't have that issue and go through life fine, but I fell victim to it, you know. I know it'll never happen again. I'm not a disgusting person. You know,
so what's your plan? What are your plans when you decide when you do get out?
So I've been trying to get into counseling in here. It was really hard to get into counseling before I came in because the pandemic was going on. All the counselors were taken. I settled with one counselor that we didn't really have the best relationship. She was older. I grew up with my grandparents that had dementia, so I started noticing the signs in her as well. So I believe some of the context we talked about got convoluted, and she wasn't really aware of my situation. So I didn't have the best therapy before I came in. When I am released, whether I get parole or not, I definitely plan on engaging in counseling, weekly therapy. I met with Bill Hobson, a psychosexual therapist, before I came in. He met with me a series of times. I think he works with the connection, which I later found out, and I included in my package to you guys a letter from him stating that he would try to get me in to see me to continue sexual.
We saw that letter.
And I plan on doing that, whether it's with him. I'd rather be with him if his contact list is full, whoever you guys recommend. I know what I can say it with 100% certainty. I won't have this issue ever again. I ruined hurt a lot of people's lives and changed them forever, you know, including my own children, but most importantly, the victim. I want to take a sex program to at least get more insight. You know, maybe if I can even take one thing from it, I think that's good. Even though I don't feel that I have, you know, any concerns that will happen again. So I plan on doing those two types of counseling. I can't get counseling in here because my mental health score isn't high enough, apparently. Or else I would have been doing that. I wrote a couple times.
You have a daughter?
I do, yep.
How do you plan on explaining this to her?
So it's been really hard. You know, her grandmother has kind of slowed contact a lot because of all this and doesn't really want her to be subjected to all this. You know, I'm going to have that conversation with her one day. I hope she doesn't look at me as a bad person. Have you had any contact with her at all? Currently not right now. I've been writing her letters through the grandmother, and I talked to the grandmother, but she was kind of waiting to see what happened here and didn't want to confuse her. It's actually the opposite with my son. I actually have a visitation order, which I submitted in my packet, that I got the first month of being incarcerated, where he's supposed to come once a month for in-person virtuals. I talk to him every day on the phone, and I'm going to have that conversation with him as well, because that's his sister, you know, who is involved, and he looks up to me. I've never lied to him, and I try not to lie to him. You know, he still doesn't really know why I'm in here.
You have a lot to work through.
Yeah,
James, you have an awful lot to work through.
Yeah.
I don't have any additional questions at this point. Are you maybe one more word? Yeah. About employment.
I'm sorry.
I saw a letter from your previous employer.
Yeah. So I have a letter from my employer. I've been there for 16 years. They told me that I would have a job when I come out. They know I'm not a bad person. I made a mistake. So I will have employment when I come out. I believe a friend of mine who is her son's friends with my daughter in school years ago, she wrote me a character reference letter, Maria Calvert. You know, I'm not sure if anyone else did. I asked my cousin that I have to write me a letter. I'm not sure if she did. shit, I kind of found out last minute because I didn't really have a big heads up about this.
Yeah, we had a few extra papers that came in, a few extra.
Yep. And I
All right,
also
thank
have
you.
a plan. I also have a plan for, like, you know, getting myself back on track with, you know, making a lot of money that I've been paying. One thing I wanted to tell to the parole board is I've been, since day one that I've been in here, I've been giving my son's grandmother $800 a month
Yeah,
for
we
child
read
support.
that. We read that.
I know it's not ordered, but I've been doing it for them. You know, I've been paying a mortgage that to be honest, if I don't.
Mr. James, we read that and we saw the
Yeah.
checks and everything. So thank
Yeah,
you so
I
much
just-
for sharing that. I don't have any additional questions for you right now. I want to
Yeah.
pass it on to my colleagues. If I have any others, I'll ask you at the end. Thank you so
Great, thank
much and good luck to you.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. Good afternoon, Mr. James.
Good afternoon.
You know, I just noticed a few things. You know, and our job today is to look at your suitability for parole. If you could be successful in the community. You know, and you know, you've done a lot of work. You seem to be a person who tries to be on the right track. And this incredibly horrible thing happened. The SO evaluation shows that you were actively engaged in group. You can see that through your interview now. That you volunteered to lead certain things, which is important inside. And that your relapse plan that you put together, you know, is something that took serious, right?
Yep.
And that you have a great deal of experience with HVAC. You know, and you know, I noticed as well. It's like there was fatherhood program was something that was important, but not offered. But then Click was available, so it's like you're seeking out programming to help you make the changes that you need to make and continue to stay within the changes that you've made.
Yes.
So that's a very positive thing. You know, I just hope that appreciate the questions that have been asked, and you know, just hope that you continue to do the things that you need to do. So that nothing like this ever happens again.
Yep, I agree. I have no confidence. I have all confidence in the world that that won't happen again. My main focus is to get my life back on track. Stop smoking marijuana. I think that was one of the biggest downfalls I've had. And that, you know, I'm doing that for my children, not for myself, because I don't feel that you know, for the health aspect as well, you know, and I have a lot of my kid, thank God for the kids' grandparents, you know, but their lives have been changed. The victims' lives have been changed. And the only thing I can do is just try to make it up to them and go forward from here. You know, I have no other choice. You know, it's tough paying a mortgage in here, not working. I don't know if I'll be able to continue that if I have to spend another year and a half, 2 years in here, you know. I left that house for my kids in a trust, you know, and I want to continue paying the child support to my son's grandmother, you know, because it's the least I could do for what they're doing, you know, and that's going to be difficult not working, you know. So I have a lot of work to do. I have plans in terms of maybe using the equity in my house. My house is only halfway paid off. I'm going to use the equity in my house to maybe get an income property to try to build this back, because my daughter's grandmother just told me, you know, she's going to need a car, she's going to need college. And that was my main goal, to leave them money for that. And I threw a lot of it away during this, you know, so it's a lot to catch up on. So.
All right. Thank you for answering my questions or talking with me this afternoon.
Thank you for meeting with me.
So, Mr. James, what is the mental health and culture program you're enrolling in?
So the mental health and culture program, like I said, the book signing was today. It's actually the second step to the program I just completed, which was the intro to mental health. I learned a great deal in there. You know, I learned how the stress theory,
Okay,
compounding.
I'm going to cut you off because you're oversharing a bit here. So
Sorry,
the
I ran a
program
little bit.
for mental health and culture part 2
Yep.
begins when and runs till how long?
So the first letter, it was supposed to start today as the first class. We were on lockdown for the last week, so it kind of changed the whole schedule of everything. Book pickup is at 1 o'clock today, which I've missed. I'm hoping to see the CO is going to let me go get those books today, and I'm assuming that means we're going to start tonight as the very first class. It's usually about a month long, month and a half.
And you're halfway through the culinary arts?
I'm more than halfway. We only have a couple months left of culinary. Yep, it's one thing if I could share quick, I know you guys
No.
have a lot to go with.
No, hold on. I'm asking the questions. Okay. So talk to me about the victim impact. This child was 5 or 6 years old. You were in a trusting, caretaking role in her life, and you coerced and manipulated her, and exposed her to things that a child shouldn't have to deal with. So what do you think the impact's been on the child?
So I say to myself, one of the things I learned about was minimization. I dehumanized her, which I shouldn't have. I don't want to minimize it. The situation didn't last that long, but I do know it still can have a lasting impact. Their psyches are really young at that age. I'm never going to forgive myself for doing that to any child. It's something that I hope that, I don't know if she's in counseling or not. I'm hoping that she's able to talk through it and realize that wasn't anything that was her fault. I deeply regret that. I'm sure I'm going to have to address that at some point in the future, especially with the mother, and even my son is her sister.
Okay. All right. We're getting far afield from the question.
I'm sorry, my anxiety, I'm just got a little.
So in the program that you completed, what did you learn about grooming?
I learned that, I guess grooming is like forms of ways to kind of, manipulate the children to, for things that you want. I guess maybe try to be their friend, something along those lines, like kind of make them feel comfortable with you, and to try to, try to take advantage, and for horrible purposes, we concentrated on a lot of topics in that class.
Sure. In addition to manipulating, it's a trust building. It's getting the child increasingly comfortable with touch, doing things like tickling, bath care, things like that, so that you can put yourself in a position to violate the child. In your case, you use snacks.
Yeah. To be honest, I read that allegation. I've admitted to you what I did, which is already horrible enough. To be honest, I honestly don't even remember saying something along those lines. I'm not saying that there wasn't snacks that was offered beforehand or something, but I honestly don't remember saying, like, look, if you want this snack, you got to do this. That I believe that was really misconstrued throughout the allegations, to be honest. If I did that, I would take full.
Let me read to you from the police report.
Mm-hmm.
The juvenile disclosed that you would offer her snacks, and she stated that you would touch her genitals with your fingers in return for snacks. And she went on to describe herself as feeling upset because she thought she should receive the snacks without you touching her vagina.
Yep, no, I understand. To be honest, in terms of the touching, I inappropriately, when, she'd come out of the shower, I wouldn't say I would like smack her butt and I know it's inappropriate. Look back on it in hindsight, I shouldn't have done that, get going, do what you're supposed to do. It wasn't really in a sexual way. In terms of the touching.
But it's part of that grooming that we talked about, which is, having that physical contact so that you could advance it to something more of a sexual nature.
Yep. No, I understand.
you've covered an awful lot of ground here today. I'm wondering if you could describe for me what your priorities are upon release.
So my priorities are first to get working again. I want to get into mental health programs. AA is something I also want to get into. I don't have a problem with drinking, but they don't offer NA here. I've been going to AA religiously every week, so I want to get into an AA or an NA in the world for my marijuana use. Hope to not relapse on that. I want to do the psychosexual program. I told you what I was responsible for, and I do feel really disgusted for that. And I don't believe I'm ever gonna commit an offense like that again. I know I won't, but I would still like to see what insight I can get from those programs. Maybe look back and try to get something from it, and avoid certain situations that I might not want to put myself in, that I put myself in this first time. It's my relapse prevention plan. Escape and avoidance is something we heard, we read about. I have, let's see, I wrote a couple things. My mind isn't really.
So, Mr. James, I'm going to wrap up with this.
Yep.
I have heard you say a tremendous number of times today, and then read it in the documents, that you're not concerned and will never reoffend in this way again. And, to me, it mirrors someone with a substance use addiction, that the vulnerability is in being arrogant about your compulsions.
Okay.
And, the way to manage is to be hyper vigilant, not arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
You did it before, and this was multiple occasions.
Yep.
So you have the potential. So you have to be mindful and vigilant to not reoffend. And
No, I
to
agree.
repeatedly assert that this will never happen again almost creates, the mindset that contributes to these situations. These crimes flourish in denial and secrecy.
Mhm.
This child was betrayed by her own mother, who tried to keep her from telling anyone what you were doing to her. So, I would just caution you, when you start therapy and you start problem sexual behavior treatment, this isn't about you being a good or a bad person. We're not sitting here in judgment. We're, concerned about this happening again. And your best defense is to be vigilant. You talked about knowing your triggers and some other things at the beginning of your statement. Keep those in the forefront of your mind, and try to let go of this mantra that it'll never happen again, because I'm sure you never imagined it happening in the first place. And yet you created the situation to bring about the violation of this child who had your trust.
Yep, you definitely said a lot of key points there. I agree. There's been multiple chances in here to smoke. I pride myself, I haven't. That's one reason why I know that I won't when I get in the world. It was so hard to quit when I was in the world, and I was stressed. And it's very stressful in here. I can tell you that. I've been to 4 different jails in the past 19 months. I've had 15 different cellies. Very traumatic in here. And, that's for
Well,
what's
it is
the
meant to
time.
be a deterrent.
Yeah, if anything, I would have smoked in here. And I said to myself, the second I do, I know I won't be able to stop. And that's why I have it in here. And I owe that to my children. I'm not going to rush in
So,
for relationship.
Mr. James, you're
Yeah.
not eligible until the end of October. So I'm going to encourage you to talk to the counselors there and see if you can't complete the voices between now and then. You did struggle with answering my question about the impact on the victim. And I think if you had a deeper appreciation of the harm that you've caused, that would help you in preventing you putting yourself in situations to victimize other children. So, I know you're committed to this mental health and culture, but it doesn't mean that you can't further pursue the Voices program. So that ends the questions that we have.
Yeah,
So
I I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a delay, but I do have a request here. As soon as I have about 15 requests. I know I
Yes.
submitted stuff
Yep,
to try
and
to
they
get
were
into
all
voice.
attached to case notes, and we read
Yeah,
all the
trying to
efforts
get
that
in
you've
there.
made to get into programs.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that with the remaining time on your sentence,
I'll tell them that was your recommendation. I actually told them, look, my hearing's coming up. I wrote numerous times beforehand. They still said they didn't really care. But now that you've told me that, I'll tell them that you recommended that. Maybe that'll get me to the
it'll be
front of the
put
line
in the
faster.
hearing dispo. So at this point, we're done with the questions.
Okay.
So if you would just sit quietly, take some deep breaths, we're going to discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Difficult.
Thank you for.
Difficult case, Madam Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez, yes.
Difficult case, because of the nature of the case itself. And the fact that the point that you brought out, in fact, about manipulating the situation to suit him. The fact that there was a big marijuana issue, a drug issue. However, he has taken responsibility. He has shared his remorsefulness with us. And I was concerned because initially he had really taken minimal responsibility for this offense. He scores low, the SRT, scores low to moderate on the static 99. He has taken his short-term sex offender treatment program. I would also like to see, hopefully he does take his voices, can try to get his voices if he can. I would be supportive of voting Mr. James to roll today. And hope that, he doesn't have any prior, he does have a prior, I guess, endangerment charge in 2018. Which would have covered too much, but he has no disciplinary report since he's been in. So I would be in favor of.
And obviously you are as well, from your
Yeah.
remarks to him.
Basically, what I said in comments, I understand how serious this is. I believe that Mr. James is committed to try to improve his understanding, and seek continued rehabilitation. I really appreciate your comments, Madam Chair, about when you said addiction and how it continues to, come up like that, because quite frankly, sexual behavior can be.
And addiction as well, absolutely.
So I would support probation for this case.
So I have problem sexual behavior treatment, no minors without PO's permission, mental health evaluation and treatment, no contact with the victim, initials EM. And I had a question mark about domestic violence. He's looking at a year and a half on discretionary parole supervision when he is out in the community, so I don't want to overload him. I know that he was doing some programming of that nature with Radiance out in the community before coming into prison. So where do you stand on that?
Good.
I mean, I don't want to overload either. If he's going in for mental health and they have him, which I believe they will, have him doing mental health treatment in addition to problem sexual behavior. If DV is also a mandated piece there, I don't know if that would be. So I share your concern, and I'm just not sure. I'll defer to what you think in that case.
Well, I think the repeated references to toxic relationship and some of the controlling stuff that was going on, I think perhaps let's put it on the list and hope that time allows for that before he begins probation, and if not, maybe they'll pick it up. Okay, so in matter of Tyson James, inmate number 443416, there is a motion to grant parole on or after your earliest eligibility date of October 27th, 2024, with the following conditions for your supervision. You're to engage in problem sexual behavior treatment out in the community. You're to have no contact with minors without your parole officer's permission. You're to engage in behavior management for domestic violence. You're to have a mental health evaluation and participate in treatment as deemed necessary. And you are to have no contact with the victim, initials EM. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Mr. James, we wish you much success.
All right, thank you very much. God bless you guys. I appreciate the time you've taken. Thank you. I have one question. In order to see my son, you're saying I just have to, the parole officer will figure out how to do that if it's supervised or however that works, or
Talk to the officer when they come meet with you, sir.
okay. All right, thank you. Have a nice day.
Folks in here for Tyson James, 443416.
There's no doubt about it. This board is dangerous. There is nothing that we saw in this interview. There's nothing dated in the facts that could possibly warrant him getting paroled early. Nothing. If I sat down across this board right now and I said, look, let's just go over the transcripts of what it is that he said, what it is that he has done, what is it he even owned up to. If you just want to base the veracity of an interview off of honesty, he failed all of that. He couldn't make it through therapy because his therapist had dementia. So he makes that up. Oh, it was the idea with the crackers and the bribing my 5-year-old with snacks, that never happened. Oh, it sure did. Oh, I just did this once or twice. You know, I slapped your butt in the shower. I know I couldn't do that. You know, this parole board, actually, you know, when he's detailing what happened, how she came into the couch with him, and then the parole board member actually says, well, but you didn't stop it from happening. Not the idea of the couch, the idea that he fondled her. He said they agreed with him that she was coming a 5-year-old who definitely viewed him as her father. He's the father of her half-brother. And his answer is, well, you didn't stop it from happening. It's insane. The other parole board member, Mike Pauly, he's scary. He is scary. He says, you were on the right track and this terrible thing happened. This terrible thing happened. That's what Mike Pauly says to him. This was going on for 2 years that we know of. It was going on and on and on. Low risk score. They're nuts. You can't watch this and have any trust in the system. You don't need a PhD to know that he is a dangerous pedo. He likes little children, and he's sitting there talking about his children. He's also, not to mention, probably the whiniest parole hearing we've ever seen. The guy's whining, like, he's whining. Shut up. And then to the cherry on the top, he's blaming it on pot. Are you kidding me? He doesn't even have meth, PCP, crack. No, it's pot. Yeah, pot rewired your brain, you know, like little babies. Psycho, but it's not just it's not them, it's the system, it's the pathetic DA, it's the pathetic judges, and then it comes down to the final line of defense, the parole board. He lied in his parole interview. They catch it in the lies, but they don't hold him to the fire. Give me one reason why you couldn't keep him locked up there for another 2 years so he could fulfill the full term of his sentence and have him do programs inside. Give me one reason. Look at this article Richard found here. And, you know, there would have been no article on this because it's just a child. But the reason this one picked up the news is because she was a social worker the girl's mother, his wife or whatever, who he's, blaming the entire time. And frankly, she was in it with him. She is serving now prison time with him because she partook in it. She watched it happening. She told her daughter not to say anything. And you think, and the way it just happened a couple times. A woman was sentenced to 18 months in prison. And look at this. She was only just sentenced March 22nd, 2024, 5 months ago at the time of this hearing, 6 months ago, my math. A woman was sentenced 18 months in prison after police say she told a young child who was the victim of multiple sexual assault not to tell anyone. Her young child. Erica faced sentencing Thursday in New Britain Superior Court, where a judge ordered she serve 3 years of probation once she was released from prison. The sentencing came after she pled guilty in November to one felony count of risk of injury to a minor. They let her get away with that pathetic little charge. According to the court records, in exchange for the plea, prosecutors dropped one count of second degree hindering prosecution. Martin attorney Jefferson Frespin did not immediately return to comment. According to the court records, Martin was arrested by members of the Berlin Police Department December 20th. The arrest came about a month after he was investigated. Berlin investigated and arrested the 36-year-old Tyson on one count of first-degree sexual assault, 2 counts of fourth-degree sexual assault, 3 counts of illegal content. Okay, and they pled him down to just what was his plea deal after all of that? Sexual assault. Okay, I mean, we're talking he's going away for a long time. What's he risk of injury to a minor? I don't think he's even having to register. Can you imagine that? I need to go back and listen to it for the 10th time, but I don't recall them mentioning any registration problems, right? According to the warrant affidavit, the case authorities believe James sexually assaulted the girl multiple times in 2018 and 2019 when the victim was 5 and 6 years old. Investigators believe Martin knew about the abuse and witnessed it. That's the woman, the mother. The warrant affidavit said not only did she fail to report it, but she also told the girl not to tell anyone. According to the warrant, the affidavit, police began investigating the allegations against James in early 2020. The victim told a social worker that he touched her inappropriately and had her touch him in an inappropriate manner. Can you imagine the disgustingness? Your mother is a social worker and she has to go and tell another social worker because her mother is allowing it. The girl said that James would offer her snacks in exchange for the things they allegedly did together. But he's like, oh, I got this mouse keeps jumping on me. In exchange for things they allegedly did together. The warrant affidavit said she also said she was told she would be taken away from her family if she told anyone about what happened. According to the warrant, the affidavit, police believe Martin told the victim to remain silent about the abuse. The relationship between Martin and James and the victim was not made clear in the warrant affidavit, but I think he said it was his wife, right? Or just his girlfriend. James was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison last March after pleading guilty to 1 count of risk of injury to a minor. His prison term would be followed by 3 years probation. 1 count. And his little whining, taking no accountability, actually, literally, in all sense of the word, blaming the victim, lying about every single situation that happened, saying that it was a toxic relationship that was causing him to do this. It was pot that was causing him to do this, and he knows he will never offend like this again. The words that he used, I'm not putting it all on her. The situation did not last that long. I acknowledge that I played a part. Psychopaths that you can yell at the roach, but the roach is a roach. But what you have to yell at is the broken system, the injustices of the system, the idea that this is the panel that is put on the parole board. His lies were so blunt. And also, it's not just that, but all the symptoms and all the signs of someone who their brain is still warped. He hasn't taken enough programs to actually know how to fake it enough yet. See, because he believes deep down that is her fault. He believes that she came onto him. If he believes he made a mistake, he believes that he should have been the bigger man and told her no. Or he believes what he did wasn't so bad. and he's just trying to learn from the programs what to say. He's only taken like a short program because I mean they sent him to prison. You think that maybe, hey, get out when you take a full program. Not that it makes a difference. The only thing it would do is put him in a better position to get away with it next time. I just re-listened to the beginning of the hearing, the end of it, and I see no mention of that he has to register as a sex offender. The only, it seems, requirements is the probation officer needs to give permission of which children he sees, and that probation period is for only 3 years. So if he's does not have to register as a sex offender, let's just add that to the list of complete, where they completely failed their community by giving this monster who did this to a little girl who probably viewed him as a father figure, certainly the sister of his own son, and they do nothing. They do nothing. They do nothing. They release him with a pat on the back and they say, go ahead, go out into the community, take a program out there. That's it. That is it. And by the way, he does have a record, and they let him skirt around that. They let him straight up gaslight them as soon as they started to go down that rail. So he in 2017 has a DV case. Let's see, not in 2017. He is reckless endangerment. Yeah, 2017 reckless endangerment. He was sentenced to 1 year jail, but they suspended it. Okay. And that's what he was talking about with the DCF case. Oh, I don't know. He brought it up and realized they had no idea about it. They hadn't done any homework. And then oh no, it was nothing. It was no big. It was, yeah, okay. He would have gone in front of a judge. A judge would have sentenced him for a year. It was that bad. Okay. He is a repeat offender. He's a monster. He's a danger to children, and they just let him out. It's sick. And imagine if he doesn't even have to register. It's sick. This board is sick. And I'll leave you with that.
Talk to me about the victim impact. This child was 5 or 6 years old. You were in a trusting, caretaking role in her life. And you coerced and manipulated her and exposed her to things that a child shouldn't have to deal with. So what do you think the impact's been on the child?
So I say to myself, one of the things I learned about was minimization. I dehumanized her, which I shouldn't have. I don't want to minimize it. The situation didn't last that long.